Welcome back to another gorgeous day on the Las Vegas Strip here at the Link Studios overlooking Caesars Palace alongside Anita Marks. My name is Joe Fortenbaugh and this is Bet. We are going to go to spring training in Glendale, Arizona, home of the defending champion Los Angeles Dodgers, to talk to Jeff Passan about which player you should be considering to bet will have the most home runs this season. Anita's got her golf locks for this week's tournament, and we've got an NBA Wednesday Pick'em Challenge. Quick side note before we get started, a handful of NFL draft props just found their way out onto the market. We'll be discussing those on Daily Wager today, ESPN 2 at 6 p.m. Eastern, but if you miss it, you can check it out on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ESPN Sports Betting. Anita, it's your third Wednesday in a row. You know how we do it with Let It Ride or Cash Out, so no excuses. You set to get after it here?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right, first one out of the gate. If you agree, you're letting it ride. If you disagree, you are cashing out. Currently boasting a record of 25-6 and set to host the Los Angeles Lakers tonight, the Utah Jazz will not lose their 10th game until the month of April. Let it ride or cash out.
I'm going to let it ride, baby. I mean, their record right now is 25-6. So if you're going to do the math, you're telling me that they have to lose 4 more games in 22 games. I just don't see that happening. And if you're scared, say you're scared. I'm not scared of the Lakers. No, I mean, look what's going on with them. They've lost now 4 of their last 5. AD's out, Schroeder's out, and since then, they've dropped off. Their offensive efficiency has dropped to 25th in the NBA, and they've gone from the #1 defense to the 16th defense in defensive efficiency. So I'm not worried about tonight's game, and I took a look at their schedule ahead, looking into, of course, the schedule post the All-Star break is not out yet, but I'm looking at teams that are not good against three-point shooting, and that's where the Jazz make their money. Miami, 28th, Orlando, 17th, New Orleans, 30th, the 76ers, 14th against three-point shooting. If you're scared, say you're scared. I'm not scared. I'm not going to say I'm scared. And on top of that, keep in mind, keep an eye on how many, there's 30 NBA games that have had to be postponed. The Jazz have only had 1. What does that mean? There's going to be a lot of other teams in the back end of the schedule that are going to have back-to-backs. The Jazz are one of the teams that are going to have the fewest. So I think the second part of the schedule is going to benefit them. So, man, I'm all for it, man. I don't believe they'll lose more than 4.
Damn, I'm cashing out, but you really laid out a great case at the end there with the COVID angle, which makes me rethink everything I'm about to say. I want to focus on 2 key points. Number 1, the Jazz are currently 21-2 over their last 23 games. They've got 5 games left before the break. They should be a favorite in all of them. The one that causes the most trouble, possibly outside of tonight's game against the Lakers, is going to be the final game, which is in Philadelphia, which they should still be a favorite. But if they run into the break red hot, I wonder, is that the best time for an all-star break when you are scorching hot? That's usually when you want to get some things right. So I wonder if that'll act as like a little bit of a William H. Macy cooler effect and slow them down a little bit. Number 2 is what you brought up regarding the three-point shooting. They're shooting 39.7% from deep this season. That's 3rd best in the NBA. Last year, they led the NBA in three-point shooting at 38%. So they're actually shooting better this year than they did last year. At some point, I wonder, will there be some regression coming? And if that comes, how negatively will it impact the Jazz? So I'm going to cash out, but I'm going to cash out tentatively because you laid out such a great case. Let's go to number 2. Let it ride or cash out. After a 7-9 season in 2020, the New England Patriots will win the AFC East next season.
Man, I am cashing out. We've been working together for over a year now, Joe. You know where my heart lies in this division, right? Circle the wagons, baby. It's the Buffalo Bills. No way, for a lot of reasons. And let me set my case for the Buffalo Bills, right? They're going to get the majority of their offense back. What they do need to focus on is on the right side of the offensive line. It needs to get a little bit better. But man, and Josh Allen, one of the best third-year performances of any quarterback in the history of the NFL. I mean, he was in the MVP discussion. So offensively, they are still going to be stacked. Defensively, the biggest key here is Matt Milano, their linebacker. He's an unrestricted free agent. He's such a big key to that defense. I hope they can work out a deal and bring him back. You want to keep an eye on that. But in regard to the Patriots, who's going to be their quarterback? Mariota Is Cam coming back? Ryan Fitzpatrick, we've heard his name out there. Wide receivers, who do they have? Not much. Defensively, who do they have? Not much. Don't be surprised if they draft Mac Jones and they bring in a rookie and they use this year as a rebuilding year in that division. So for me, it is cash out, baby. I'm all about the Buffalo Bills, Joe. You know that.
I will start by saying all hail Queen Anita, queen of the props. Last summer, or 2 summers ago at this point, when we were all discussing how the football season was going to go, you had the Bills winning the division from our opening conversation. We were doing all those clips for YouTube. You were on them all the way. You were 100% right. Unfortunately, I find myself going against you in this one. I will be letting it ride. Now, I'm not letting it ride at even money, but at a price of 5-1 to win the division, I'll let it ride with the New England Patriots. They have the 3rd most cap space available of all teams in the NFL at the current moment, so they can spend. They have several key players like Dante Hightower, their linebacker, coming back this year after opting out last season due to COVID. Because they finished 3rd place in the AFC East, they get an easier schedule than normal. And because Buffalo won the division, not only do they get a tougher schedule, but they have targets on their backs. They're not going to sneak up on anybody this year. I'm not sure if we can necessarily trust Tua in Miami just yet. The New York Jets still feel like they're a few years away from serious competition. If the Patriots can figure out the quarterback position, and I hope it's not Newton, but if maybe Jimmy Garoppolo comes in and can stay healthy, at 5-1, I like the price. I'm going to let it ride. Which brings us to our final selection of the day. Eliminating 2020 from the equation because it was a 60-game season. At least one player has hit 45 or more home runs in each season since 2014. Let it ride or cash out. Nobody will hit 45 home runs this season.
I'm going to let it ride. In full disclosure, I text a few people for some help. Michael Kay, of course, who's the voice of the Yankees here in New York. I texted him today. David Sampson, former president of the Marlins. I texted him today and I said, all right, guys, I need help with this question. Both of them say that it will not happen. Why? In Major League Baseball, there is reports that they're going to deaden the ball. I didn't even know that's a word. It's a word. Deaden the ball. On top of that, as you just mentioned, 60 games to 162. What's going to happen? Let's be honest. We're going to see an uptick in injuries. And because of that, teams are going to play a little scared, and so they're going to rest players more than what we normally see on any given Major League Baseball season. So with the help of Michael Kay and David Sampson, I'm saying, let it ride, Joe. Let it ride.
I am going to cash out, and I'm going to start by saying I really wish I had worn my steel-toe boots today because you're dropping names all over my feet and my toes are hurting. Let's take a trip through time and look at the rise of the home run over the years. In the year 1950, there is an average of .84 home runs per game. 30 years later in 1980, .73 home runs per game. 30 years later in 2010, .95 home runs per game. Last year, 1.28 home runs per game, which is second all time behind only the 2019 season. Launch angle and exit velocity have become 2 of the most coveted and studied and researched statistics in all of Major League Baseball. Nobody cares about singles anymore. Tony Gwynn, would he even fit in this era of baseball? Guys hit home runs or they strike out. It's all about the 3 key outcomes: strikeouts, home runs, and walks. And based on the way things have gone over the last few years, I will bet someone finishes with 45 or more home runs. Bonus pick for you at a price of 60-1. Teoscar Hernandez, the 28-year-old Blue Jays outfielder, would be my pick to lead Major League Baseball in home runs. He hit 26 in 125 games 2 years ago. He hit 16 last year in just 50 games. He's 60-1. Teoscar Hernandez, get to know the name. Now, speaking of Major League Baseball, let's go to Glendale, Arizona, where the sun is shining at the home of the defending champion Los Angeles Dodgers as we welcome in ESPN MLB insider Jeff Passan to bet. Jeff, we always appreciate the time. Thank you so much. Let's start with this. Mike Trout, Pete Alonso, and Joey Gallo are all listed at 12-1 to lead Major League Baseball with the most home runs this season. Would you bet on any of those 3 guys at those prices, or would you rather take a shot on somebody with longer odds?
Guys, I'm sorry. I'm looking to see if Anita is going to be dropping any more names on us. We look to be clear at this point. And Look, if there's any one of those guys I'm going with, it's going to be Pete Alonso. And I appreciate the Teoscar Hernandez pick, Joe. It's a little sneaky, but there are better ones out there. Yordan Alvarez didn't play at all last year, but in his rookie season in 2019, might have been the best hitter in all of baseball. 25-1. Love that in that park as well. You know, if you want to go really long shot, you can go Franmil Reyes. May have the most raw power of anyone not named Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton in baseball, and is going to be a fulcrum in that Cleveland lineup this year. If you want to go a really, really long shot, though, 100-1. The guy who won National League MVP last season, Freddie Freeman, I know he's considered more of a gap-to-gap type hitter. It's a guy who had 38 home runs a couple years ago, someone who is swinging better than he has in his whole career, and he's going to be coming off a year in which he didn't have COVID-19, didn't spike to 104.5 degree fever, didn't fear for his life. Freddie Freeman is going to be at his best this year, and 100-1, awfully good odds for him.
I like that. Good buy low case to be made for a guy like Freddie Freeman. All right, let's go from the hitters to the pitchers and take a look at the NL Cy Young Award odds. Jacob deGrom leads the way at plus 450. Trevor Bauer, newest member of the Los Angeles Dodgers, at 6-1. Max Scherzer, Walker Buehler. It's an incredible list. Of all the guys on the list, would you want to take one of these right now, Snell, Nola, Darvish, or would you rather go off the list for someone at longer odds?
You know, give me deGrom and cash that thing. He shows up in Port St. Lucie and is hitting 99 in his first bullpen session yesterday. Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher in baseball right now, and I feel like that plus 450 is a good number on him. Other guys on that list, I like Buehler at 9-1. You go a little bit off the list. Jack Flaherty, I think he's going to have a bounce-back season. He was the best pitcher in the National League in the second half of 2019. If you go down a little more, Corbin Burns with the Milwaukee Brewers, an awfully interesting guy at 40-1, struck out 88 in 59 innings last year. And Zach Gallen of the hometown here, Arizona Diamondbacks, through his first 8 starts, had a 1.8 ERA, had an average start, had a bad start, finished the year at 2.75, strikes out guys, gets ground balls. He's a sneaky guy at 50-1 that I might throw a couple bucks on.
A few weeks ago, you joined the show and you talked about liking the Tampa Bay Rays as a potential dark horse to make it back to the World Series. They're currently listed at plus 120 just to make the playoffs. $100 bet returns $120 on that investment if they just make the playoffs. Do those odds make you nervous at all for their World Series chances?
Not one bit. And I look at the way that the Rays were last year. They don't have stars. They don't have guys who stand out. They don't get the average schmoes money thrown at them. They have a rotation this year that's lost Blake Snell, that's lost Charlie Morton, and yet one that goes 7, 8, 9 guys deep. And in a year where pitchers are going to be limited, regardless of the team you're talking about, I would be shocked if we see a 200-inning guy this year, even a veteran who's gone out and done it in the past. When you have a year where it's going to be that limited, you want depth arms, and that's what the Rays have gone out and done this offseason. And one name that I'm hearing a lot about lately, Shane McClanahan, a young left-hander, throws 100 miles per hour, has developed a slider, and it could be one of the best breaking pitches in baseball. That's what the Rays do, guys. They go out and get a bunch of names you've never heard of and turn them into players who are leading teams to World Series.
All right, my turn to ask a question, Jeff. I promise I won't name drop on you, but I want to talk to you about the Padres. Listen, they were active and attractive and aggressive in this offseason, as we know, right? Securing Tatis, 14 years. Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, just to name a few. They bring Darvish's personal catcher over with him as well. Here are the stats. Padres to win the World Series 9-1, to win the NL plus 425, and to win the NL East plus 190. Are their moves in the offseason going to translate during the season, and are these good odds? What are your expectations for them this season?
I think they're certainly going to translate into another playoff appearance like last year. The big question is, are they going to translate into a division title? And they just so happen to have the best team in baseball in their division. And that's the problem that the Padres are facing during the regular season. Are they better than the Los Angeles Dodgers? At this point, I think the answer is no. But all it takes is one injury to change that. All it takes is one breakout to change that. And one thing that the Padres have that the Dodgers and the Rays, but very few teams have, is that depth in starting pitching. I mean, the Padres are going to start the season, Anita, with a rotation that doesn't include the best pitching prospect in baseball, Mackenzie Gore. They can call on him at any time. They have other depth arms in that organization. And when it gets to playoff time, it just is a matter of how well you're playing. You know, you can throw an average team into the postseason and they can make a World Series run because baseball in the playoffs is a small sample size game, and all it takes is 3 bad games by your pitching, and you can be out in the division series.
The man, the myth, Jeff Passan from Glendale, Arizona, joining us here on Bet. Jeff, we always appreciate it, man. Have fun down there. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys, take care.
All right, Anita, time to foray into the jungle. That is this week's PGA Tour stop, the WCG Workday Championship at the Concession Golf Club in Bradenton, Florida. Dustin Johnson, shockingly, is your plus 650 favorite to win it all. John Rahm's right behind him at 9-1. Be careful here for all of you out there who like to use horses for the course as some of your research. The event is not taking place in Mexico like it normally does. The tour couldn't get the Mexican permits, so they moved it to Bradenton, Florida. So previous winners, it's a different course. Keep that in mind. Also keep in mind it's a WGC event, which means a smaller field, fewer than 80 players this week. So Anita, we'll start with this. Who do you like to win the whole thing?
I'm going chalk. Don't make fun of me, Joe. Listen, I had to do an even deeper, I know, but I had to do an even deeper dive into my metrics to analyze this course because of what you said. I mean, it's not in Mexico. It is in Bradenton, Florida. This is a big boy course. This is the boys have to strap up, they have to pull up the big pants, and therefore I'm going with players that are the best in the world. And DJ is #1 in the world. In fact, I got an interesting stat here for you. 2/3 of the players that have won tournaments on this golf course rank in the top 10 in the world. And as we know, DJ is one. In metrics, he hits them all in regard to winning on this golf course. 5th in driving distance, 1st in strokes gained on approach, 8th in strokes gained around the greens. You're going to need that. These greens are some of the most difficult on tour, as well as greens in regulation. And this is a very cerebral golf course. It's you really have to think about how you are going to play it, and a lot of these guys have never played it before, and DJ is one of the most cerebral golfers on tour. So this is his tournament to lose. So for me, it's all about DJ this weekend.
All right, you're riding with DJ. I'm going to go back to the well like I did last week. It worked, so I'm going to try it again. Victor Hovland at -110 just to finish in the top 20. That's all I need. Victor Hovland, top 20. It won last week. We're going to lay the -110. He's finished in the top 5 in 3 of his last 4 events, including last week at Riviera, where he finished tied for 5th. He's been 15th or better in 6 of his last 8 tour starts. And again, it's a smaller field. And when you take this field and you stack his recent track record resume up against everyone else's, he's right there with some of the best in the business. So I'm going to slide one in there, Victor Hovland, to finish in the top 20 at -110. Now, who do you like to finish in the top 10? I'm sure you got a few.
I'm sorry, Joe, I can't hear you, unfortunately.
Can you hear me right now, or are you continuing to drop out?
Somebody turned your mic off in my ear, if I could get your mic back on.
All right, so we'll go ahead and work on that.
There we go, okay.
Yes, welcome back.
I got you now, I got him now.
I just gave out like 12 straight winners. I gave out 12 straight winners. You missed all of it.
I'm sorry. We're going to do a show a little bit later on tonight. I'm sure I'll hear the same. Let's go to my top 10.
Your top 10, yes.
Were you asking me about my top? Okay.
I was.
So I love, again, I'm really going chalk here, and understand why. The best of the best, they're the ones that are going to win here. So Schauffele, to me, he's in my top 10 along with Finau. Schauffele, he's just Mr. Consistency. Every single week he delivers, and he loves these type of stages. I want to share a text message I got from a pro caddy about Finau. We know that he lost it in a playoff last week. This was the text I got from him. The reason I preach Finau, by the way, let me preface by saying this caddy texts me every week telling me to put money on Finau. He said the reason I preach Finau every week is because the last time I was with him, his ball striking and directional control was the best he's seen from anyone in the last 12 or so years. 12 or so years. Eventually, Joe, Finau's gonna make it happen. And so I really would love to see him win this, but for him to finish in the top 10 at plus 175, I think those are some really good odds. Do you want me to jump into some tournament matchups?
I was just going to say that I love the Finau selection. The guy's as consistent as anyone. He just needs to figure out how to close. And when he does, that might open up the floodgates. And exactly, final question for you. Any championship matchups you like for this weekend?
There's quite a few. Kokrak over Fleetwood. Again, top 10 in putting. These are Bermuda greens, and these greens are going to be really, really difficult. And Fleetwood, he has not played in America, by the way, since November. Hatton over Justin Thomas, and that's at plus money. That's at plus 106. This probably has to be my best bet on the table. You know, Hatton's been playing extremely well, and unfortunately, Justin Thomas, he's had a really difficult month. He's lost some sponsorships. Unfortunately, he lost his grandfather 2 weeks ago, and he's the closest guy on tour to Tiger Woods, and he's probably going to be playing with a heavy heart, understandably so. Top 20, Morikawa, he's crushing as well. 3rd in strokes gained on approach, 10th in greens in regulation, and he dominates Nicklaus golf courses. Keep in mind, this is a Nicklaus design golf course. So guys who have done well at, let's say, Bay Hill, these are guys, or TPC Sawgrass, these are the guys that you want to keep an eye on. And Zalatoris, I talk about him each and every week, Joe, you know this. I call him my human ATM machine when it comes to golf gambling. Finished in the top 20 again, and you can get him at plus 150 to do it again this week in Florida. So those are a lot of my golf plays heading into tomorrow.
Zalatoris has been incredible this season, and you have been preaching his name for more than a month. You've been all over it, cashing checks, snapping necks, as they say. Let's go to the association. 9 games on the NBA card tonight. You and I are going to ping pong back and forth through 5 of them, and then we'll pick the Lakers-Jazz game together. So you get the first crack here. Indiana is laying 2, total of 231.5 as they get set to host the Golden State Warriors. What do you like in this one?
Yeah, I'm going with a prop bet here, and that's Oubre. I'm going over points, 16.5, and over blocks at 1.5. I love watching him play, by the way. He's turned out to be one of my favorite NBA players. I'm wearing actually a Jimmy Butler t-shirt right now.
Yeah.
That's my next t-shirt to get is an Oubre. That's for sure. Hero is dealt for tonight, so he probably is going to get a lot of playing time, averaging 23 points a game his last 4 games, and averaging 3 to 4 blocks his last 4 games as well. So I like the over in both of those. Also, keep in mind, Weissman is back. No odds out on him, prop bets out on him right now. I'm going to keep an eye on those as we get closer to game time. And also, I love Sabonis over 23.5 points. So there's a lot of prop bets in this game I'm going to play tonight.
I like it. Game number 2, I'll take the reins on this one. Boston's laying 2, total of 224 against the Atlanta Hawks. I'm going to play the under in this matchup. These two have already met twice over the last 8 days, and the total soared over in both of them. So why would I go under? Well, for one reason, the number's been coming down. I'm not the only one who likes it. Both teams rank 19th or worse in effective field goal percentage. Translation, they're not that efficient on offense. They're both playing their 3rd game in 4 nights, which means we might have some dead legs out there, might not necessarily be sprinting up and down the court. And if you take a look at how Boston plays defense, they can grind you to a halt. Against Dallas last night, one of the most explosive offenses in the NBA, they ended up losing the game, but it stayed under the total. It was a lower scoring game than expected. Boston's very good at that. They're going to grind down Atlanta tonight. I'm going to play under 224. Game number 3, you're up on this one. The Miami Heat are laying 2, total of 214 against the Toronto Raptors.
Since I'm wearing a Jimmy Butler t-shirt, one would think that I'm going to have a Jimmy Butler prop bet. I'm probably going to play one, but the one I'm going to give you right now is Norman Powell. Over 17.5 points. Kyle Lowry expected back tonight. I'm sorry, under 17.5 points. Lowry is expected back tonight. What does that mean? Minutes are going to decrease for him. And keep in mind, the Miami Heat are one of those teams, they have one of the slowest paced games of all NBA teams. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of points that are going to score in this game. I like the under in this game, and I like the under Powell 17.5.
The New Orleans Pelicans are laying 9.5 with a total of 222.5 against the Detroit Pistons. I'm actually going to take the Pelicans team total, which is 116.5, and I'm going to bet the under. Now, some people might say, why would you want to bet the under on a Pelican team total? They've been scoring like crazy. It's all about Detroit. They have a combination, and it's an unenviable one, of bad offense and glacial pace. So opposing teams don't need to run for 4 quarters to blow them out. You get up and then you grind down the 4th quarter. Case in point, Detroit, as bad as they've been, has surrendered 117 or more points in just 10 of 31 games this season. And 3 of those games needed overtime in order to get there. Despite the fact that New Orleans is a top 10 scoring offense, they've reached 117 points in just 12 of 30 games this year. I'm going to play the Pelicans team total under 116.5. Final game, we're both going to pick this one. It's the marquee game of the night. The Utah Jazz, or excuse me, before we get to that, you've got one more. The Phoenix Suns laying 9.5, total of 225.5, hosting the Charlotte Hornets. What do you like here?
I'm going with our rookie MVP this season. Hopefully people got on that before the odds change, and that's LaMelo Ball, man. This dude's been balling. He is so far exceeded my expectations for the season. I'm going over in 17.5 points. Devontae Graham will still be out. He will not be playing, so he will be getting those minutes. Let's be honest. You can argue that he's the best player on that Hornets team. He's averaging 19 points a game, and they are going to have to keep pace with the Suns. And so I expect him to take at least anywhere between 5 to 7 shots from downtown, and hopefully he can at least land 3 or 4 of those. So I like the over in points for Ball at 17.5.
Now to the marquee game of the night as I get my notes organized. The Jazz are laying 9, total of 218.5 as they host the Los Angeles Lakers. You have the honors. You're on the tee box. Which way are you going?
All right, I'm going Caldwell Pope over 11.5 points. I know this is kind of off the beaten path, but follow me here. No AD, and more importantly, no Schroeder. He is not going to be back tonight either. So he's averaging 40 minutes a game, and he did this past week when they went into overtime, of course, against Washington. He put up 21 points. And also I like Royce O'Neal over 1.5 3-pointers. He's averaging 2 a game for the last 4 games. And the Lakers perimeter defensively, I mentioned it at the start of the show, right? Defensively, they've gone from 1 in the NBA all the way to 16th, and their perimeter defense has just been horrific.
I'm going to play the under 218.5 in this game. Do not be fooled by the 230 points that were scored in regulation between the Lakers and the Wizards earlier this week. That was the fastest-paced game of any Laker game, and they've played 32 this season. The Jazz do not play like the Wizards. They play A, defense, and B, they move at a slower pace. Remember, despite the loss of Anthony Davis, the Lakers are still the #1 team in terms of defensive rating. And when the Jazz are playing at home, only one team has given up fewer points at home this season than the Jazz. That's the Knicks. I'm expecting a lower scoring game under 218.5. It's Wednesday, which means we end the show with a little something called Before I Let You Go. It's an opportunity to throw one last bet in there, something we haven't discussed as of yet. Anita, do us the honors. Where are you going?
Yeah, I'm looking at the round 1 matchup tomorrow at the WGC, and I'm going Rory over JT, and you can get that at -122. Again, Rory typically does well in Florida on Nicklaus courses, and like I said, I just think Justin Thomas is just playing with a heavy heart, and he just has not been playing well, and so I'm just all over Rory at -122. That's first round matchup.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the association. Oklahoma City's taking on the Spurs tonight in Oklahoma City. I'm going to play the Thunder. Right now, do a little shopping. You might be able to find him at +1. We've got him at -1. I like him to win this game. Key reason why? Listen to this. Because of COVID protocols, no Rudy Gay, no Keldon Johnson, no Derek White, no Devin Vassell, no Quindary Weatherspoon. DeMar DeRozan's missing the game, but not for health and safety protocols. He's got personal reasons why he's out, and LaMarcus Aldridge is dealing with a right hip flexor, although he may play. Oklahoma City has dropped 7 of 9, so there is some risk, but I'm going to play the Thunder over the Spurs tonight because that San Antonio team is extremely shorthanded. Anita Marks, fantastic work as always. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll see you on Daily Wager today at 6 p.m. Eastern, ESPN 2. Excellent. And for everyone who joined us today, Thank you. We always appreciate the support. We will see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern.